Important detail for Super Mario Party Jamboree. On the European website for the game, it is confirmed that we do not have to only use a single Joy-Con. We will be able to use Pro controllers and Nintendo Switch Lites to play the video game. From what it looks like, the only caveat is that the motion control minigames just will not be able to be played. Plus, they're just not able to be played online in general. So, no worries, we can play it with our normal controllers. We're not stuck to just a single Joy-Con. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. We got a brand new Mario Party, and today I am here to tell you what makes me so excited to actually get this in my hands. There is a lot to go over. I went through and I felt like a detective going through every little thing that I could, and I'm gonna tell you everything that I found. Alright, so the first thing that jumped out to me is that there are 21 characters in this game, and some of the characters that were in Super Mario Party but are no longer in this game are Pom Pom, Diddy, Dry Bones, and Hammer Bro, whereas the new characters that were added into this are Toad, Toadette, Birdo, Spike, and Ninja. Now, the thing that I want to know when it comes to the characters most is, do the characters have their own custom dice, or will it be like Superstars where everybody, or just mainly any other Mario Party, where everybody has just the normal dice and then you can get the multiple dice or the mushroom for +5 and all that other stuff? I do not think there are ally characters in this game where you can get them to work with you. At least it doesn't seem like that, because on some of the boards where you can see most, if not all, of the spaces, there doesn't seem to be any space that specifically represents the ally character space that was in Super. The only thing that I could think of it being where we do have allies is maybe those are built into the lucky spaces themselves, which have returned, as well as the unlucky spaces, but we'll get a little bit more into some of the specifics with the boards in just a second. Because it looks like Kamek is the one who's going to be hosting the game. However, it does look like there's the potential that not a single character is actually going to be at the stars. So the stars will basically just be at their positions, and then as soon as you walk out to them, you collect them and then you move on. Which I'm fine with, except for one board which does seem to have a character holding the star. But again, we'll get into that in just a second. But for the most part, it seems that it's by itself. Koopa's the host, and they didn't really want to have, I guess, a unique character or just a different character to host other than Toad and Toadette like they've been doing. Next, we're going to get into the little intro that is showed at the beginning, because there are some interesting things there. When Kamek initially flies up, you have that island that's in the center that's shaped like a star. I think that is where we start. I think that is our main base of operations. And from there, you'll go through and do all your different things. I think from there, you pick your characters, and say you want to go to a board and you want to go to like a specific board, it'll fly you in that blimp to the area that you want to go to, which it does show the 7 boards. And I do think, at least I'm guessing, that the one in the top right doesn't necessarily look like King Bowser's Keep, but I'm going to have to guess that that is King Bowser's Keep, unless it is a secret board and King Bowser's Keep is just somewhere else. However, if we back it up and look at some of the other things that are in this little animation, it looks like there is some area that may be for some options. We'll see what hopefully some of those might be in the game, if there are maybe some unique options for this game. There's another area, I don't know what it is. It's got the mushroom top for the building, it's got some blue on it, some pink on it, a yellow circle, some things on the outside. I have not a clue what that could be. There is some floating triple island thing in the background on the left side. Don't know what it could be. Maybe it's our solo player thing. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And then there's an extra little area where you have 4 characters running on 4 boats, which, funny enough, aren't characters that you can normally select Unless certain characters maybe have multiple colors that you can choose from. Would be interesting to see. Well, I'm gonna guess that this area that they're driving to might be the area for like the mini game modes. At least that is what I'm hoping. And if I'm reading it correctly, there is either 4 or maybe 5 mini game modes. Hopefully there aren't just like the normal ones where you have like your free play, and then in Superstars where you had like do the survival for the 1 player, do the survival for the 2v2, do the survival for the 3v1, you know, stuff like that. Hopefully they're unique. Hopefully they're interesting like how they used to be. Maybe there's a 6th secret one that's in the back with that thing back there with the boulders kind of blocking your entranceway, maybe into the mountain itself. There are some interesting things here that I'm quite intrigued to see how they all play out. Next, let's go talk about the boards, because I can't believe it, there are more than 5 boards. It has been a while since I have been able to look at a Mario Party and that I actually want to play that isn't honestly the handheld ones, because they're not the best. There are some decent things on them, but not the best. However, for a console, ever since Mario Party 9, we finally have more than 5 boards. Think about that. The first thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to the boards, though, are the older boards, because it's some of the older boards that made me notice some things on some of the newer boards. First, we'll start off with Mario's Rainbow Castle. It looks like in Mario's Rainbow Castle, maybe about like 8-9 spaces in, we're going to have, I'm going to guess that is a shop where you can buy some items. And if I'm looking at it correctly, that's probably going to be the only shop on the board. In the background, I'm going to assume that that blue dot that's in the background on the top left is probably going to be some sort of Boo or whoever the character is that is going to steal the coins and or stars. Before you make it to the end of the Rainbow Castle, there are 2 things that are interesting to me, because it looks like you have a Bowser space right before, and then right before that space, it looks like that could potentially be Chance Time. Which, if it's Chance Time, awesome, love it. Always bring back Chance Time. I will never be upset over Chance Time being there. But the Bowser space is what interests me, because I wonder if you happen to use Bowser, then that space maybe isn't there and it's replaced with an unlucky space. But if nobody is using Bowser, then maybe all of the Bowser and Bowser events will play out with Bowser. Which, you know what? If that is the case, I absolutely, every day of the week, give me that. This way you have the people, if you want to use Bowser, absolutely, use Bowser. Feel free to use Bowser. And then if you don't want to use Bowser and you want him to be a mechanic of the boards, you can do that too. However, one last thing that I did notice with Mario's Rainbow Castle is, I'm gonna guess if you don't happen to be playing as Bowser, when you get to the end, Bowser is there to, I'm going to guess, hand out a star. He's there, I saw him, I couldn't miss him. Next, we're gonna move on to Western Land. The first thing that jumped out for me here was the fact that the star didn't have anybody near it. So this is kind of where I first saw it, even though it's shown earlier with the Galleria map that you kind of just are there at the star and you get it. This is where I first really noticed it. It does look like the train is back and here to stay. It'll probably have its 3 stations. From this angle here, we can't really see the Hootenanny, but there might be another picture that might have the Hootenanny. If it is, I'll pop it up on screen. However, there are 2 really big things that I noticed with this board. First is there is a brand new path. If you go to the end of the map and then you make a right instead of left, that is where the key door is on the right side of the map. Instead of it being at the top of the area on the right side, it is now at the bottom, kind of similar to how it kind of worked in Mario Party Superstars is Woody Woods, where instead of on Woody Woods where you would come from the top and use the key door there, instead it's flipped the other way around. And the second thing that I noticed, I do not know if this is bank or not, but if the cemetery thing on the right side is not bank, what is it? And again, if it's not bank, where is bank? Is there no bank in this game? Because from what I'm seeing, I don't think I see bank on any of the other boards. At least I sure don't see this cemetery looking area. So bank was in Superstars. I guess it probably wasn't in Super. So I think bank ain't here. But that's enough of the old ones. Let's get into the new ones, starting with Rainbow Galleria. I went through and counted, and I could be off a little bit because I don't have the best visuals of every single little thing, and I'm sure there are spaces that I am missing and just cannot see. But overall, it looks like there are about 65-ish spaces. Maybe it could go up to like 68, 70, depending on the ones that I might be missing, but I think that's a fine size for a board. However, from looking at the board, it looks like when it comes to the escalators that are around it, the pink ones you can go up and the blue ones you can go down. You can't go the other way on each. So in order for you to get to the top, you would have to go all the way to the right side, go up the pink escalator, go all the way back to the left side and go up that pink escalator, and then to get down, it would be all the way back to the blue one and then all the way back to the blue one. However, in the middle, there are a pink and blue escalator that you can go up and down right there if you don't want to go all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. It also looks like you can skip from the first to the third floor or the third floor to the first floor with the elevator that is also in the middle. I'm gonna guess it's probably gonna cost coins to be able to do it. Maybe something like 5 coins. That would be my guess. Also here, all across like the top of the board, there looks like there are a lot of things that have event spaces attached to them. At least 4 of them up top. There's 2, maybe 3 things in the middle, and then there's another thing in the bottom area that has like a mirror. I'm intrigued to see how that is also going to work. And then, like I said in the direct itself, the flash sales where you can get half off stars, I believe are only on this board. So I think that every single board has one thing that makes it its own unique mechanic. And I think I maybe have figured out most of them, if not all of them, because they did kind of talk about some of them, but some of them they didn't. So I'm hoping that maybe I figured it out, and we'll see. However, next though, we're going to be moving on to Roll'em Raceway. The first new thing that I noticed about Roll'em Raceway is I think this is the only board that allows you to use that 4 dice item where you can roll up to 40. I don't think that's going to be on any other board, and I think that's because this might be either the longest or second to longest board. There might be another board that is about the same amount of spaces, but I think the main mechanic that could be for this board is that it might be like Mario's Rainbow Castle or Goomba's Booty Boardwalk or any of those other boards that I can't think of that are not popping into my head right now, where you have to make it to a specific spot on a board to get the star, and it may not leave that spot for the entire board. And that's why it's so big. Pagoda Peak, that's the one I was thinking of. It does look like there are a whole bunch of different event spaces. I don't know what certain ones do. You got the one at the beginning, which is like charging your battery. Maybe that makes you move an extra little bit or something. I don't know. You got the big event spaces that are all around the board. Maybe those jumble you around a bit. Maybe those send you back to the start. Who knows? But I'm sure either way, those could be very fun. But yeah, going back to the space total, I saw about 60 to 70-ish spaces. And there could be the potential of maybe like 80, 85, 90 spaces on this board. So it's a big board. It looks like it'll be a pretty big board. But one thing that was pointed out to me that I noticed but didn't initially click in my head. So I appreciate Crazy for showing me this. If you look at Waluigi on this board, that is a different item. And I think if you zoom in on it really, really closely, I think it says minus 10 coins or minus 20 coins. Are there hexes back in this game from like Mario Party DS? Because if so, and we can choose between hexes and items, oh my god, even if it is just for a board. Oh my god, please and yes. The next board that they showed off was Goomba Lagoon, which I believe could be the biggest or second biggest, depending on how many spaces are in Roll'em Raceway. Because counting through all the different spaces, if I count it correctly, there are 89 spaces. But my counting could be just a little incorrect, and there could be anywhere from maybe like 87 to 92, just in case maybe I counted a space 2 times or forgot to count a space or something like that. However, there is a lot going on here. The board has the mechanic of where the tides will rise, and that will change how the board plays. The question that I have is, how will the tides rise? Will it be like a Horrorland or Day-Night Cycle from Mario Party 6 where every 2 to 3 turns it rises and lowers? Or will it only rise and lower if you land on very specific event spaces? That will be interesting to see. Also, something to note is on this board, you have what I believe are the 2 normal items shops, but then there's that third one that's in the top left area. I'm wondering if maybe that one is like how like the Boo or the Lakitu in Super area space thing works. Because on this board, I don't see any other area where it's somewhere where you can stop to have something stolen. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the anchor thing in the bottom on the ship. I don't know. Plus, we have the Goomba thing that's at the very top, where it potentially explodes out a whole bunch of golden Goombas. Don't know what that does. Maybe it makes everybody rich. Don't know. But another interesting thing about this board is there are 1, 2, 3 potentially different areas that you can only, I believe, access if the tides are risen. But there's like 3 or 4 different areas that maybe you can only be able to explore once the tides have risen. So that's also interesting about this board. And then the last thing is it looks like there are 2 event spaces on the sand on the top left. Don't know what they do. And then there's the 2 event spaces by these 5 chests. Maybe they kind of work how Womp's Domino Ruins is maybe like 1 or 2 of them have nothing or something bad. Maybe some coins in another, maybe a star in one of them if you happen to land on it. I could see that potentially being a thing that they did for this board. Then we're going to talk about the 2 boards that we got to see an outward look to, but not a close-up look into. And we're going to start with Mega Wiggler's Tree Party. I'm going to assume that Mega Wiggler is probably like the main one. If it's not that one, then maybe it's either Rainbow or Goomba. However, I think I noticed the main mechanic of Mega Wiggler's Tree Party. If you look at Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, there are 4 different leaves that are hanging around the center area where Wiggler is. And right next to each of them, there is an event space at every single one of them. I believe that if you land on that event space near each of them, whichever one you ring the bell on will be the one where Wiggler's head goes to, and then the rest of his body will follow suit and hang behind. Because if you look at Wiggler himself, he has spaces on him, so Wiggler is part of the board. So if you land on a specific place, then I believe that you can use Wiggler himself to get around the board maybe easier, or make it hurt somebody else by taking Wiggler away from them. Now, when it comes to the spaces of the board itself, I was only able to count about 55, but there looks like there could be a decent amount of area at the bottom of this board that I can't count. So maybe we can bump that up to 65 or 70 spaces. And then the last things that I really noticed about this board are there are the two different areas on the left and right that both have a piranha plant next to them with two event spaces. Maybe those are correlated. Maybe it's like a Woody Wood situation where maybe the one side is good, the one side is bad. Don't know. But those are my speculations. And then we have the thing at the top where there is a space where you have the two events. Don't know what it does. Can't see the thing that's above it. And then the final board is King Bowser's Keep. My guess is you're not going to be able to play Bowser here. Because Bowser is always here, that is going to be my guess. You're not going to be able to play with Bowser. And maybe that's a thing on Mario's Rainbow Castle as well, because Bowser's there. Maybe you can't play as Bowser there. However, there are still some interesting things about this. Counting spaces on this board, there seems to be about 75 to 80-ish spaces, so it's a relatively big board as well. If you look at the left side of the map, like right to the left of Bowser, there's some sort of like pad there. Maybe that launches somebody somewhere. I don't know what else it could do. But the only really things I can go off of this board are just the things that are around the board. Because like, it's so small. You could barely see the spaces as all in general. Like, I could be totally wrong in the amount of spaces this has. Maybe it has like 5 or 10 more or 5 or 10 less and I'm just blind. Also around the top area, you got a Mecha Koopa that I'm gonna assume does something. You have like a whole ass jail cell in the top right. Maybe that does something. And then there is an area right in front of Bowser where I believe it's like one of those dots where if you go in front of him, something will happen. Maybe that is one of the mini games or one of the mini games that was kind of shown around the end of the video itself, where maybe if you go in front of Bowser, you do a big fight and you get something if you win, or I don't know. But there is the potential that this may be the only board that has some like Bowser boss fights. Now that we've gone over, I'm hoping, is everything about all the boards, unless there is just like that one or two things I missed. Next, we're going to talk about the mini games, which I have some good news, because I don't remember if I said it earlier in the video. Maybe I did. I don't know. It's been a long recording session for me. However, if I didn't say it and you stuck around with me, maybe I'll also put it at the beginning of the video, just for those who kind of have the retention span of a goldfish. But for those of you who are here, there are 110 mini games, at least it does say over, and you do not have to play this game only with Joy-Cons. You can play this game with a Pro Controller, or if you have a Nintendo Switch Lite, you can play it with that as well. The only games that are forced through the Joy-Cons are the motion control mini games. So if you are not using Joy-Cons, I'm gonna guess based off of what they kind of said that you will not be playing the motion control mini games unless everybody is using Joy-Cons. Otherwise, all other mini games are fair game. However, we did get a look at about 9 or so mini games, so let's kind of talk about them. The first one they showed looks to be some sort of like survival-esque minigame where you kind of got to be able to platform through all the different areas. You got to make sure that you don't go too far or you'll get electrocuted by the thing in the front, but you don't want to go too far back or else you get electrocuted by the thing in the back. Maybe it works some way where if maybe you get hit by like the chain chomp that it shows, you get eliminated, or maybe if you get hit by the booze, you get eliminated. Don't know, but I think that one's an interesting one. Next one they showed is a Yoshi racing game where you hop on a Yoshi and you race through it. It would be funny if you're actually able to use a Yoshi on a Yoshi to be able to do it. Also, there seems to be some sort of glowing apple that nobody really goes for in it. So maybe if you grab the apples, you're able to move a little faster. Don't know, but that would be an interesting mechanic for the minigame itself. The next one is an 8-player minigame where it looks like you're trying to make the picture through all 8 of the different cards. However, I noticed something in the top right with the C rank. So I think we're going to have some sort of river survival type mode returning, as well as maybe in this mode you can play with 4 people. Maybe in this mode you can play with 8 people. Maybe they added a certain thing where you can play with 8 people in any mode. That would be cool, bringing that back from Mario Party 7. But it's interesting to think about because this isn't the only mode that we see 8 players in, but we'll get to that in a second. The next couple mini games that were shown are the ones where they start to show the motion controls. But I will say it is nice that these are not forced and that it is only offline. That is another thing that I forgot to mention at first. These mini games are only offline. So if you are playing online, which I'm going to assume works how like Superstars worked until I'm proven otherwise. But yeah, motion controls only for offline, only for those who use Joy-Cons. But they did show one where you're going along and you have to hammer in all the different nails. Looks like it's a little bit of like a timing thing. And then there's another one where it looks like you're trying to get the golf ball into the hole. I'm going to assume that it kind of works like somehow like the other Super Mario Party mini games were, where like the first person gets 5, then maybe 3, 1, 0 points, stuff like that. And I'm going to assume like this one is like multiple rounds, maybe like 3 rounds or something like that as well. And then after that, we have a minigame that looks like a mashing manic mallets type kind of game where you just mash through your teammates for as fast as you can for 10 seconds, and whoever mashes the most wins. After that one, we have a 1v3 bullet bill minigame where the one person's in a bullet bill and they're coming down to hit everybody. I'm going to at least hope that this is like multiple rounds, maybe like 2 rounds like with bowl over, and then the 3 have to avoid the 1. There also seems to be the rhythm games coming back like we had in Super, because you have one where you're slicing up a bunch of cucumbers. I'm going to assume it's not just going to be cucumbers or whatever these are. But you got to do it like in the rhythm because it gives you like the nice and the okay and the early and the late. It looks like it gives you those like it did for the rhythm games. So I'm going to assume we're going to get rhythm games back in the game. Then there is a mini game where it looks like another rhythm mini game, but in this rhythm mini game, there are 8 people and you're matching your rhythm to Wiggler. So are 8 players part of multiple things? Or if the potential river survival type mode is actually coming back, maybe this Wiggler mini game is one of those. It could be one, it could be the other. Don't know. But before we talk about some of like the final mini games that were shown off, we got to talk about a brand new mode that was brought into this game, which was also in a different game, but in this game it has a different name. Here, it's the Koopathlon. If you want to play the Koopathlon, you can play it online with up to 20 people. Now, the thing is it always random people? Or maybe can you play it with friends? Because if you could play it with friends, that would be awesome. But if you're looking at it and you're going, that kind of looks familiar. Well, yeah, it does look familiar because it's Coinathlon from Star Rush. In it, you're going to go around, play a couple different mini games, collect coins from the mini games, and the amount of coins that you collect will determine how far you actually move. And you got to do 5 laps to be able to finish the game. I'm going to guess it's probably going to do something similar with the way that Star Rush had it, where it's going to, you know, go through like 3 or 4 different mini games, and you just got to keep doing those to be able to win. Also in this 20-player mode, there is a Bowser mini game where Bowser is chasing you along the area. No coins to be seen. No Koopathlon to be seen. So, is there the possibility that there are just maybe 5 to 10 to 15 8-player, or not even 8-player, 20-player mini games that you can play? I don't know. It's a possibility that there are maybe like 5 to 15 mini games that are 20 player specific? And if so, I don't know. I kind of hope it does have that. I didn't think about this until just now. I thought it was a Koopathlon minigame. I don't think it is anymore. There's also another Bowser fight minigame that apparently my brain just blocked out, where you're shooting fireballs at Bowser with, I guess, like a team, or maybe it's not a team and you're working by yourself and you want to just get the most amount of cannons to shoot at Bowser. There is a lot going on here, but there is this new mode where you have two people carrying a third person to somewhere. I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're doing, but there's some sort of flying around type of thing, which I don't think is a mini game. I'm going to assume that it's its own little mode. One last thing that I do want to talk about with this game is the box art, because I think in the box art we can see two new mini games and maybe a new item. If you look at the box art on the left, you can see Toad, Goomba, and Bowser flipping pancakes. So I think one of the motion control mini games could be you sitting there and flipping some pancakes. And then if you notice on the right side of the box art, Daisy is chasing Waluigi with a hammer while Waluigi is holding a coin bag above his head. So, you know, I don't think they're gonna have any old mini games, but maybe we're getting a little bit of a nod to Bash and Cash in that, which would kind of be pretty funny. But if you look at the bottom right of the box art, Peach is holding an item bag, and out of the item bag has the skeleton key, has the Boo Bell, and then it has some other type of like shell, conch shell thing. I'm going to guess that maybe that's a new item, but I don't know what it could do. That's the thing. Could it also potentially only be available on one map, like potentially Goomba's Lagoon? Maybe each area or maybe each board has one very specific item that could be played on each map, which would be kind of interesting. But yeah, there has been a lot to talk about for Super Mario Party Jamboree. It is coming out on the 17th of November, and you better believe that I am doing a midnight stream for it. And then later that day, after I wake up and do probably the couple things I need to do, I'm hopping right back on and playing the rest of the boards that I did not. You better believe that I'm coming on and doing the rest of the boards that I didn't play that night before. I hope with this that you were able to learn a little bit more about this game that maybe you didn't know coming into it. Maybe you were afraid of, like with the controller stuff. And I have a feeling that depending on like the rest of the mini games and how maybe some of the boards might work, this could be potentially one of the best Mario parties. It will come down to the items, it will come down to the economy, it'll come down to the rest of the mini games. But right now, as it's sitting, it has the potential to be very, very good. I will give ND Cube its props. It took Super Mario Party and I think made it so much better. But the only way that we'll be able to really figure that out is by actually getting there and having it in our hands. So, with that all said, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy the game when it comes out.